kinematic mount that repositions the container and or the camera very, very accurately. These things are very inexpensive, very easy to make or buy. So you don't even have to bother registering the image. So this kind of beads in a box approach is really nice because you can simply reuse the beads. You just need a before and after picture. And of course, you must secure those pictures. Well, we think there's still problems with our anti-evidence seals. We think it's a better way to go. But the real problem is nobody's really interested. There's not much demand for good seals. The Department of Homeland Security is interested only in what's commercially available now. Very little research goes on with tamper-indicating seals. The people who make seals are selling them just fine, thank you very much. They don't need to produce a product that competes with their product line. So until people have more interest in having better tamper detection, I think it's sort of a dead end. And there's some other issues that are typical for all kinds of seals having to do with battery life and secret key hash or password control and erasure issues, data remnants, and so on. And we're not convinced that our crude prototype designs are the best implementation for anti-evidence. But we think that really fundamentally this is a much better approach than conventional tamper detection. Now, let me go back a step and demonstrate for you the magnetometer, because if you haven't seen how sensitive magnetometers are nowadays, it's pretty impressive. So we'll just do a switch over to video here. What I have here is a rare earth magnet, maybe 30 cents. And I'm going to keep it well away from John here. And also my credit cards. So that looks like an absolute reading. This is a 3-axis magnetometer. Measures in nanoteslas. The Earth's field's around 55,000 nanoteslas, vector sum of the x, y, and z axes. And then he's going to zero it just so we can measure changes. So it's not quite zero, but the device needs some warm-up time. So it's around 0 for x, y, and z.
Stop moving around, that would help me.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Almost. I want to get back to X. There we go. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to come closer here a little bit. I'm still, I don't know, 10 feet away.
There's X, Y, Z.
And as I rotate, you can see that changed. And then just to demonstrate the seal aspects, I'll move much closer here, let them re-zero. While I was doing that, I remind you that magnetic DC fields travel through almost everything without substantial attenuation, even most metals. Now, the metals will deviate the vector lines, but it doesn't really attenuate them. Unlike static electric fields, which you can shield with a Faraday cage, it's really nasty to try to shield magnetic DC fields. So he's zeroed it here, approximately. Well, this guy sells for about $2K, but you can buy the sensors for 10 bucks, or maybe 10 to 75 bucks. And you get, you're trading off sensitivity a little bit. Okay, now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to remove the seal, and then I'm going to try to put it back as good as I can, just visually. So you move it, and you'll see a big change, of course. And I'll try to, obviously I could do better than I'm doing here, but you'll see I don't put it back all that well. So there's your seal. You can take the magnetometer away between measurements. And finally, just concluding, we think that the anti-evidence approach makes a lot of sense for real-time monitoring, where you're getting a real-time update about whether there's a problem. So instead of sounding an alarm, which a traditional cargo security system, for example, would do when there's tampering or intrusion, the problem with that is the alarm can be easily blocked. What we do instead is simply send an occasional all OK signal, which would be a simple bingo number, typically every minute or two. And we're just going to listen to that as the cargo goes down the road. So unlike traditional cargo security systems that are streaming high bandwidth information out of the truck, telling the whole world there's something really interesting inside the truck, we're basically sending a bingo number every minute or two. Very low bandwidth. We don't talk to the cargo, we just listen. So there's no hacking in from radio frequency approaches. And again, it's an anti-evidence approach, meaning that if intrusion or tampering is detected, we just quit sending the bingo number. So as long as the correct bingo number arrives, and only the good guys know what the correct bingo number is, the good guys and the cargo, then everything's fine. As soon as the all okay signal quits coming, then we immediately detect that. I think we'll skip this. I'm kind of running out of time here. So finally, if you'd like more information, we've got a book that's coming out shortly having to do with the idea of the weakest link in the chain of security. There's a lot of physical security books that offer insipid advice on how to do good security. Well, our book's going to offer insipid advice on how to have bad security. Because in the end, it's the mistakes you make that are more important for security than what you get right. That's because the bad guys don't attack randomly, they attack at the weakest link. And also, we are hosting the Journal of Physical Security. This is apparently the only peer-reviewed journal that's devoted to physical security, and it's free and online, and you can sign up to be notified when new issues come out. And if you'd like to download a whole bunch of reports, papers, and presentations on tamper detection and seals, including how to use existing seals better, you can find that at this website. Thank you very much.
Just a quick comment with that journal. We could really use paper submissions, especially from an audience like this. Typically, we get paper submissions from folks out in some company somewhere. Oh, we put in this burglar system and it seems to work. But folks from you, or submissions from you folks would be just great if you don't mind throwing some papers our direction.
I guess maybe we have time for a couple of quick questions. Yeah. Sure, it's not too different from a traditional seal, which has a serial number. And if the bad guys, let me repeat the question, sorry. Question was about, again, the insider threat and what if someone intercepts the information. Because as he points out correctly, for at least some of these seals, you need to send information to the receiving location that, about what they're supposed to see. That's not the case for all the seals, but it is for some of them. Basically, you have essentially the same kind of problem, a little bit different with a conventional seal. You want to protect the serial number, at least for a little while. Typically on a conventional seal, the serial number is on the outside and the bad guys can get a look at it. Hopefully with the anti-evidence seal, you've run the information through a completely different channel, one that you would use cryptography on. And, but once again, if you've got disloyal people, all bets are off. Technology doesn't save you from that. The other thing to point out is these seals aren't always just for cargo. Sometimes they're just for a vault. So you may stow stuff in a vault and want to come back later. So there's no, in that case, communication of information. You're just going to keep the reader, and you better secure it. But you're going to come back with that same reader and see if things change. In that case, you don't need to transmit any information. Any other questions? Yeah?
How do you deal with out-of-band auditing? In other words, people that are not privy to the knowledge around the seal but still need to validate it. Like, for instance, an inspector at a truck stop or TSA, which I do a lot of work with. They have to inspect in line as they're going through, but you don't want them, they're not sharing the secret information that you're showing.
Right. The question is what when you have multiple players involved. And the example I'd give is customs often have to open trucks and take a look. They don't do much. They just kind of stare at it. But in that case, with a seal like this, you want to program the option to have multiple openings, possibly with only allowed windows. The nice thing about microprocessors is that's all trivial to do. So if you've got a situation where you suspect a seal would be open in a certain time or location, or even if you don't, you can program in a certain number of allowed openings, and you simply go to new anti-evidence. Now, is that as secure as having only one piece of anti-evidence and assuming only one door opening? No. But is it as secure opening the door a bunch of times with a bunch of different people? No. So those are the kind of trade-offs. If you want good security, only one guy should open the door. But as you point out, that's not always possible. Yeah, back there.
I presume with the magnetometer that it's important to reproduce where it's placed or mounted in relation to the sensor. And then I have a question about whether magnetometers are calibrated individually, or if you can measure a sensor with a different magnetometer the second, third time, et cetera.
Well, there's a question about